Today I'm going to show you how to replace an igniter I diagnosed last week. I took off the panels to get into the blower and burner compartments. This one's a sealed combustion, so I will have to remove these 3 screws to get into this burner compartment to get to the igniter. So I'll go ahead and do that. So I opened up this burner compartment, and you can see down here is your flame sensor. Up here is your igniter. There's this little plug right here that it'll plug into that goes back to the ignition board. In there's 2 screws I'll have to take out to get the igniter to come out in one solid piece. Once I get it out, I will show you how to put the new igniter in to get it replaced and going. So I removed those 2 screws. I was able to get this little assembly out for the igniter. You can see I have one more screw. I'll remove it off of this bracket so I can get this old igniter off, and I'll be able to put the new igniter on. I also always recommend when you're starting to handle the new igniter to put rubber gloves on, just so you're not getting oils from your fingers and hands on the new igniter. So here is my new igniter, and it actually has this little Molex plug conversion deal on it. It's the one from Trane, the manufacturer OEM part, but clearly they have this conversion you need to use now. Another thing to always check on these Trane igniters is some of the Trane newer furnaces have 80 volt igniters, which is different because most stuff has always been 120 volt igniters. So just make sure you have the right one for your specific unit. So here I have my new igniter screwed into my bracket, and I put my new Molex plug conversion on, and now next I just need to mount it back inside the burner compartment in here and plug it back in, and I'll be able to test to make sure everything works correctly. One more tip to make sure you do have the correct voltage igniter. One is to obviously look at your paperwork with your new igniter to double check, but another thing you can do is when you have this Molex plug disconnected, you can put your volt leads in here and put it into a coil for heat, and when it goes to light the igniter, it'll show you what your voltage is. I highly recommend doing that because I have gone out to plenty of calls where people have put 120 volt igniters in on an 80 volt igniter system. It'll work intermittently and sometimes work for even a couple months, but it eventually will fail, and it's something I've gone back to quite a bit from other companies or employees doing that repair. Another tip I would recommend is when you're putting in the new igniter back into the burner compartment, just be very, very careful with the tip of the igniter that you don't snap it off or anything like that. When you're putting the new igniter in, they can be extremely fragile, and the base of them are actually like a porcelain, so you just have to be very careful with the igniter when you're putting it back in. So once I get the new igniter in, I will cycle it right afterwards. You can look in this little sight glass of the burner compartment, and I can see that the igniter is starting up because it is brightly glowing orange inside the burner compartment, and it just energized the gas valve. And now I can see the blue flames and everything running like it should. So this is what you can do to test your new igniter after you get it installed. And that is how you change out an igniter on a Trane gas furnace.